Hey boys and girls, welcome to the fourth and the final lecture of this particular topic, which is called stereochemistry. This is lecture number 20, and here we will see about the details of the last and final topic that are remaining, that is the stereoisomerism. Okay, now let us have some prerequisites about the three lectures that we people have already come across in this particular topic, which is called stereochemistry. Okay, now in the first lecture there is a part 1 of stereochemistry, lecture number 17. We people had seen that what the different types of projections are and how to represent the molecules in 3D. Okay, now these different type of projections were Fischer projection, Newman projection, Schwarz projection and flying wedge projection, right? So that we people have seen in the part 1 of stereochemistry lectures, and in the part 2 of this particular lectures we have come across two very important topic, that is chirality and optical activity. Okay, and in part 3, that is the last lecture that we people have seen, it is also very important for us because we have come across a new topic which is called isomers and isomerism. And this we people have seen that the molecules having same molecular formula but different structures are called isomers, and the phenomenon is called isomerism, right? Now in this particular context, these isomers are of two types. One is structural isomers and the other is stereoisomers. Okay, now structural isomers we people have discussed briefly in the last lecture, and in this lecture we'll come across stereoisomerism. So let us start the lecture and see very carefully every part of the lecture because this is very important for us. Okay, so let us start stereochemistry part 4, stereoisomerism, right? Now stereoisomerism is basically exhibited by the isomers that have same structure but differ in spatial arrangement. Okay, now this spatial arrangement, what is the meaning of this particular thing? So the word spatial means in space. Okay, spatial means something in space, right? That is the normal arrangement of these structures will be different and they'll be having different configurations. Okay, now this particular thing was also present in inorganic chemistry with the same categories, that is geometrical isomers and optical isomers. Here also we'll be seeing two different categories, that is geometrical isomers and optical isomers. Now we have to come across what is geometrical isomerism and what is optical isomerism. Before that, let us remember what we people have seen as geometrical isomerism in the that part, our inorganic part. Okay, coordination chemistry part. In the geometrical isomerism we people had come across cis-trans isomers and FACMAR isomers, right? And in the optical part we people have seen DL isomerism, right? So let us see here in organic chemistry what we come across. If we go for geometrical isomerism, we have to come across the definitions of geometrical isomerism first. So geometrical isomerisms are those molecules which are locked into their spatial positions with respect to one another due to the presence of a double bond or a ring structure. Now there is a basic need of something when we are talking about geometrical isomerism, and that basic need is nothing but double bond. If there is no double bond, there will be no meaning of cis and trans isomerism, because here the cis and trans isomerism are the main matter of concern. If no double bond is there, again I am saying if no double bond is there, then there will be no cis trans isomers, right? Cis trans isomerism is only possible if double bonds are present, otherwise cis trans isomerism have no meaning, absolutely no meaning, right? Now what is cis isomer and what is trans isomer, that we need to see. We are saying cis trans, but what is cis, what is trans? This is very important for us. See, there is a particular meaning of these two words, cis and trans. Now let us first move into the word cis. Cis means same side. Okay, now same side means the different type of groups. Okay, the different type of like groups, if they are present on the same side of double bond, then the compound will be named cis. Okay, and if the different type of groups are present on the opposite sides of double bond, then the compound will be named trans. Okay, so cis and trans basically are two names of two different isomers, right? If the like groups are present on the same side of double bond, then it is called cis, and in like groups are, if the like groups are present on opposite sides of double bond, then the molecule is called trans. Now question arises, what are like groups? Like group means same type of groups. For example, in the figures which are shown here, you can clearly see the left side we are having the cis isomer, and in the right side we are having the trans isomer. Now this is a butane molecule, okay, butene molecule rather. It is but2ene, where the double bond is present on the 2 and 3 position, right? Between the 2 and 3 carbon atoms, the double bond is present. Now if we see carefully, we people will be seeing that the butyl groups, CH3 CH2 groups, okay, if they are present on opposite sides of double bond, then the compound is named trans, and if they are present on same side of double bond, then the compound is named cis, right? Now you people may ask that what about hydrogen? The hydrogen may also be considered as cis and trans. Yes, definitely the hydrogen is considered, but we people have to see what other groups are present here. For example, if four different atoms are present, Cl, Br, F and I are present on 4 different bonds of this particular molecule, then what will happen? Can we distinguish it into cis and trans? Answer is no. If like groups are present, then only we can distinguish, otherwise not. If four groups of 4 different polarities are there, then we cannot characterize that particular molecule in terms of cis and trans. Okay, so cis trans is very important for us, and we need to see that what cis trans is and how the cis trans things are to be operated. Okay, now up next we people are having another important topic, that is called optical isomerism, right? Now optical isomerism is the second part, geometrical isomerism was the first part, right? Now in optical isomerism, what we people are seeing, see, optical isomers are basically those isomers or the compounds which have same structure but different configuration, right? Now this different configuration, it results due to their molecular asymmetry, and they have a strange property, right? What the strange property is, these optical isomers are basically optically active and they can rotate the plane polarized light. Okay, now what is plane polarized light, how it is rotated, and how the optical isomers are formed, we people have understand all this in the second part of the stereochemistry, because we have briefly studied the optical activity in that particular lecture, right? Again I am saying a little bit about it, that what happens, we just take the sample in the sample tube, okay, the sample which is to be tested, it is taken in the sample tube and it is to be placed inside the polarimeter, right? Now the polarimeter, what it will do, it has a source or the sodium vapor lamp, right? Now there will be 2 slits, one is monochromatic filter, another is the polarizing filter, okay? So the light source which come, that will pass through these 2 filters and then it will go through the sample tube, right? And if the molecule is chiral, then definitely it will rotate the plane polarized light, and that will be analyzed by the analyzer, and we can see it by the detector, or we will see by our eye only, right? Now these optical isomers will be having same physical and chemical properties, and the difference is only the polarization of light, action on the polarized light. That is, one will rotate the polarized light in the clockwise direction, another will rotate in anti-clockwise direction. Generally the one which rotates the light in clockwise direction is called D isomer, and the other which rotates the light in anti-clockwise direction is called L isomer, right? So this is the basic story of D and L. Okay, D isomer is called dextrorotatory, L isomer is called levorotatory, right? Now here the glucose is given, as you people can see, one is D and the other is L, right? the glucose molecules are present here, as I have already told you. Now it is interesting to note that this is projected again in Fischer projection, because I have told you previous in the first lecture or second lecture also that Fischer projection finds wide application in the field of biomolecules and biochemistry, and this glucose and fructose are nothing but biomolecules. Okay. Now next comes the very important topic, that is enantiomers and diastereomers. Okay. Now what is enantiomer? Enantiomer is such stereoisomer which is non-superimposable on its mirror image, right? You can see some strange structures here. One is D-erythrose, another is L-erythrose. Now these two are nothing but enantiomers, okay? And you people can see that they are non-superimposable on each other. If you try to superimpose, they cannot be superimposed, okay? So L and D structures, these are basically enantiomers and they cannot be superimposed on each other, right? Similarly, if we move to the term diastereomers, then we will see that diastereomers are something which are not mirror images of each other and they are not superimposable on each other. Neither they are mirror images of each other nor they are superimposable on each other. Examples are erythrose and threose, right? L-erythrose and A-threose, we people can see they are not superimposable on each other, they are completely different from one another and they cannot be superimposed on each other, right? They are not mirror images also, okay? So these two are called diastereomers. Now there is a particular chart that we people can see where the erythrose and threose, D and L, they are shown in such a way that it is a family relation between these four, and one is enantiomer, another is diastereomer, okay? If you just see it, it is a little bit, it may seem a little bit complicated, but it is not that much complicated to us, okay? So once you are understanding the enantiomer and diastereomer fact completely, then this particular thing will be very easy for you, right? Now up next we are having the differences between the enantiomers and the diastereomers. As you people can see, the enantiomers are the stereoisomers that are non-superimposable mirror images. This we people have already discussed. And diastereomers are stereoisomers that are non-superimposable and not mirror images of each other. So the first point of the difference of the enantiomers and diastereomers is nothing but the definition that we people have seen, okay? This is the first point of the differences between the enantiomers and the diastereomers. Next, enantiomers will always occur in pair and diastereomer can be several molecules. Means enantiomer, yes, it is a mirror image, right? The mirror image means there will always be pair, right? One will be D, another will be L, always. But diastereomer is not mirror image and they are not superimposable on each other. So they can be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, infinite number of molecules may be there, right? So this is a very important point, which is the second point of the difference between enantiomers and diastereomers. Up next we are having the third point, which says that enantiomers have identical physical properties except the ability to rotate the plane polarized light, okay? And diastereomers have distinct physical properties. See, this is very important. Enantiomers have same physical property, same chemical property, because basically the molecule are same, only the structure is different and hence they will rotate the plane polarized light in a different way. But diastereomers have no relation with each other and hence they can be having multiple distinct physical as well as distinct chemical properties, okay? Now in enantiomer the shape of the molecules will be similar, whereas in diastereomer the shape of the molecules will be different, right? So this total things were present in the enantiomer and diastereomer concept. Now we people, if we move into the discussion, then we will see that here in this particular lecture, basically this is the last lecture of the stereochemistry part, and see, stereochemistry, if you practice it, it is not at all difficult, it is very easy, but your concept should be clear that what I am dealing with and why this type of things are there. Whatever you people are studying, the concept must be known to you, okay? Now we people have seen the 4 lectures of the stereochemistry part. There is part 1, part 2, part 3 and part 4, and here, as this is a concluding lecture, so I am concluding each and every lecture that is being seen in the stereochemistry part. So the first lecture is nothing but the projections. Different type of projections are there. It was the representation of 3D molecules, and in part of the projections we people have seen Fischer projection, Newman projection, Shawhart's projection and flying wedge projection. Okay, so the Fischer projection is nothing but horizontal and vertical lines, and across these lines we will be holding different atoms, and all the cross sections of this particular lines, the crisscross points of this particular lines are basically taken to be carbon atoms, right? And this particular Fischer projection has widespread application in the field of this particular thing, that is biochemistry and biomolecules. Okay, next we were having the Newman projection and the Shawhart's projections. They are basically the representation of the atoms of carbon in staggered from an eclipse form, right? And after that we people have seen the flying wedge projection. Now flying wedge projection is very important for the chemical reactions, and it denotes which one among, see, basically a tetrahedral carbon is having 109.28, right, 109.5 degree or 109 degree 28 minute, right? Now if these angles are oriented at 109 degree 28 minute, then it cannot happen that all are in the same plane. Definitely 2 bonds will be in same plane and the other 2 will be above and below the plane, right? So this particular representation was clearly given by the flying wedge projection. Okay, the flying wedge projection clearly explained that what different type of structures are present in this particular molecules, right? Okay, so after flying wedge projection the first lecture ended. Then with people in the second lecture we had 2 important, very important topics, that is the chirality and optical activity. Now what is chirality? Chirality is a very important topic, and as far as chirality is concerned, we people will be seeing that it is something which cannot be superimposed on its mirror image, right? Now these chiral carbons are having 4 different atoms across the 4 different bonds. Okay, and these are very important in the field of chemistry, right? And several question comes about the chirality of the atoms. Okay, so what type of question comes and how to answer those questions we people have discussed in that particular lecture. Okay, so chirality was followed by the topic called optical activity. Now optical activity is something, right, which happens to the chiral molecules only. The chiral molecules, basically what will happen, they rotate the plane polarized light. They have the ability to rotate the plane polarized light. Okay, so if the chiral molecule solutions are placed inside a polarimeter, then we people will be seeing that they are actually rotated, right? The light is actually rotated, polarized light is actually rotated by these particular molecules. Now this rotation may be either clockwise or counterclockwise. If it is clockwise, then that particular rotation is called dextro rotation, or D. If it is anti-clockwise, then that particular rotation is called levo rotation, or it is L, right? So these are the details about the chirality and the optical activity. And next in the third lecture we people have come across the term called isomerism, and we people have seen that isomers are those compounds which have same molecular formula but different structures, and these isomers may be of 2 broad types. One type is structural isomerism, another type is stereoisomerism. Now inside the structural isomerism part we people have seen multiple things, like we people have seen chain isomers, position isomers, functional group isomers and metamers, right? And in the stereoisomerism, that is in this particular lecture, we people have explained what is geometrical isomerism, what is optical isomerism, what is cis-trans isomerism, and what is DL isomerism, what is dextro, what is levo, what are enantiomers and what are diastereomers. These 6 things we people have explained in this particular lecture. Okay, so that's all about the stereochemistry that is present in the BTech course of first year, that is chemistry, CH 101 for odd semester and 201 for even semester, right? So what you need to do, you need to study the things carefully, and there is a question bank, you need to solve the question bank. Okay, and whenever you face any problem, just contact me and we will sort out with some answer and we'll solve the problems, right? So till then, thank you, stay happy and stay safe, and wait for the next lecture, that is lecture number 21, organic reactions. Very important things are coming up. Okay, so till then, stay tuned, stay happy, stay safe. Thank you.